Hey, it's our weekly streaming show, and here's a sneak peek at our top streamer of the week. Go get you some Will Levis, rostered in just 18% of Yahoo leagues. Levis looked decent enough against the Dolphins last night, and he faces the Texans in week 15. They just made Zach Wilson look like Boomer Esiason. Texans ranked 29th in AFPA to opposing quarterbacks. Levis is volatile, but he has enough upside in this great matchup to warrant streaming this week. Now let's get to the show. Welcome, everyone, to the Most Accurate Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Niles. With me is my wonderful co-host, Jen Akins. Jen, how's it going today, buddy?
It's going better than you. I can see you're on the struggle bus over there, health-wise, and I'm sorry again that you are down and out. So well wishes to you and your your cold, but I'm good. I'm excited to kind of dive into. We're at the playoffs, so I'm excited to get there. Hopefully, we have plenty of our regular loyal listeners that made the playoffs that will be joining us this evening for some advice. Can't say that streaming is that fantastic when we get to this part of the season, but hopefully Brandon and I got some gems. How are you doing there, Brandon?
I'm okay. You know, my family just keeps passing around this illness for the past 6 weeks, so we each keep getting it. So now I think I've got some sort of sinus infection thing. So everyone, bear with me. Appreciate you being here. I wanted to be here and talk football. I'm glad that it's virtual in this case, Jen, so that I'm not sharing whatever this bug is with you today. I don't think it goes over microphones yet. I don't think we're at that point yet.
I don't think so, or else you and I would have passed it back and forth for the last few weeks.
Absolutely. Once again, this is our weekly streamer show. We highlight the quarterbacks, tight ends, kickers, and team defenses you should be targeting as streaming options for the upcoming week. As a reminder, we only discuss a streaming option if they're available in 40% or less of Yahoo leagues. So if your favorite option isn't discussed, they're probably rostered in too many leagues. Hello to the people that we love that are joining us. Hi, Albert. Hi, Will. Hi, Corey. Sorry, Corey. I have a Justin Herbert league as well.
Same.
That actually knocked me out of the playoffs this week. So unfortunately, because of Justin Herbert, but hopefully we will be in good shape this week with some good quarterback streaming options. I actually don't hate the options this week, so maybe I'll just kind of go right into them. You could talk me into these other two guys over Will Levis. But the problem is, Will Levis is the one with the good matchup. These other guys have really bad matchups. And my 4-year-old is screaming, which is something that happens quite a bit, unfortunately. So, but we do have Joe Flacco, who's rostered in just 7% of Yahoo leagues, going up against the Bears, who are ranked 5th in AFPA. And that's what holds me back, right? The Bears defense has been playing well. Montez Sweat, that midseason acquisition they got via trade, he's been wrecking havoc on opposing quarterbacks. But Joe Flacco's been pretty good. He's the QB6 over the past 2 weeks. He just got announced as the starter for the rest of the season, and he's actually attempted more passes than anyone over the past 2 games, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. It's nice over the last 2 weeks to see this Cleveland offense lean on the pass and for Joe Flacco to be the benefactor for that. So again, bad matchup. So I don't love him as much as I like Levis against Houston, but I do like the fact that Flacco's playing well and that the Browns are letting him sling it. So I like Flacco. And then Jake Browning, check his health. He's supposed to be fine, but he did leave Sunday's game early. Goes up against the Vikings. Again, bad matchup. Probably a better quarterback than Will Levis. He's the QB2 over the past 2 weeks. Has some of the best weapons in the league. Playing for a playoff spot. They're letting him throw. He's been pretty efficient. But Vikings 4th in AFPA to opposing quarterbacks. They just made mincemeat of Aiden O'Connell. Not that that's a huge thing, but that is what it is. And then I've got a bonus for you, Jen. Nick Mullens is too risky to actually put in most of your lineups. But Mullens is a gunslinger. I just want you to know that's who he is. So he will throw. He will throw into tight windows. He will throw it deep. He will air it out. And he might get lucky. He's got some good weapons in Minnesota. So he's going to start. He's going to go up against Cincinnati, 21st in AFPA. So, again, Mullens is too risky. He's super volatile. But if you're in one of those deep leagues, super flex leagues, I actually don't hate rolling a little bit of dice on Nick Mullens because he's that gunslinger. But he's very volatile, very boom bust. I want to ask Jen, are you excited about the Nick Mullens era in Minnesota?
I can't say I am. Actually, I'm indifferent on the Nick Mullens era in Minnesota. I will say this though. I know there's a lot of people out there that are going to be needing to stream, or between Justin Herbert this week, we've had over the course of several weeks now, Joe Burrow, several others down for the count. And so it's one of those things. Certain leagues, there are people will hoard quarterbacks toward the end of the season for this reason. Certain leagues, they will not. Like, for example, I'm in a league. I have Herbert. Fortunately, I already clinched a playoff spot. So I lost this week because of Herbert. Thankfully, it didn't matter. I happen to have Jared Goff on my team. I picked him up back for Herbert's bye, and I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to hang on to him. I don't love him, actually. I'm not really excited that is my option, but I think he's better than Nick Mullens rolling out there. So I am glad I have him. But yeah, I think that there's at least, it's weird, right? Every year we get all these quarterbacks that go down, and then you have all this kind of turnover, and the end of the season quarterback list is totally different than the beginning of the season quarterback list. But hopefully, I think Brandon, you put together some good options for these guys. And for those people out there that maybe were riding with one quarterback and lost Herbert, and maybe a couple other people in their league grabbed a second one, to where, the Jordan Loves and the Sam Howells and whoever are not there anymore, and they're going to have to go deeper. So I think I appreciate, and I'm sure they all appreciate your selections this week.
Let's hope it all works out. There's several guys out there, so it's going to be interesting. Corey's in Minnesota. I'm curious what Corey's take is on,
he says he's
Nick
not.
Mullens.
He's not excited.
Not excited. Okay, not
No.
excited. I'm excited just because, I don't know. I saw him air it out in San Francisco. The game should be more fun than the dink and dunk stuff that we've seen. Not that I think he's going to be great. Toronto Dave is dependent on Joe Flacco. Good luck, Toronto Dave. I'm personally rooting for the Joe Flacco resurgence just for fun, and now that he's almost 40. And Toby made the playoffs off some luck. Appreciate that, Toby. Thanks for sharing that with us. Wants to know if Josh Palmer is useless without Justin Herbert now. Jen, are you... do you think Josh Palmer is pretty much useless now?
I don't know about useless. I think he's probably a flex play in certain leagues, depending on who you have. I would like to think that you have better options than Josh Palmer, but he's not the worst option in the flex if we end up there. I mean, we haven't seen a lot from the quarterback for the Chargers, the new guy. What, Easton? I'm drawing a complete blank right now.
Easton Stick, yeah.
Easton Stick, thank you.
High quality name.
My mind is Jacob Eason, which is not who that is. It's a totally different person, but I was like, my brain wasn't computing that. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, we haven't seen a ton from him. So who knows? He could get that sneaky beginner luck in there and have a random rip off a huge game. But for the most part, I don't know about completely useless, but I wouldn't be as excited as if Herbert was there.
Yeah, makes sense. Toby wants to know Josh Palmer or Adam Thielen. Rest of the season and this week, I'd still rather go with Thielen just because he gets at least 7 targets a game, it seems like. And so as bad as that offense is and as risky as it is to bank on it, I think your variance is going to be smaller with Thielen. So, Jen, it is now time for the most important question in any podcast, not just fantasy football podcast, but I would say any podcast, cutting news, anything that's out there. The most important question anyone's going to hear today, and that is it a good week to stream tight end?
Oh
no.
Yeah, not so much. There's a few guys that we can throw in there, but I would not call it a good week. It's just not. I'm trying to talk myself into sugarcoating the ranking, but really it's not great. There's a couple options for us, but nothing great. Hopefully you guys out there have better options already on your rosters, but we'll get to it anyway. The number one streamer for me this week is Tyler Conklin. On the road in Miami, he is 19% rostered. Getting the rock from Zackety Zach. But yeah, I mean, he had 7.5 half PPR points last week, which isn't awful, right, for a fill-in tight end. He's averaging 6.7 targets over the last 3 weeks. Miami's 18th against the tight end in adjusted fantasy points allowed. The Jets absolutely have to win. I mean, they have to run the table to get any kind of playoff consideration, or in order to even sniff the playoffs, they have to run the table. So they're probably going to be looking to get that pass game going. So he's the best option out there. Yeah. Second guy I have is Cade Otton. Uh, I feel
Our
like we could
guy.
just, yeah, our guy, he's back.
He got
Uh,
in last week.
he did get in, but yeah, so he's at the Packers this week. He's 38% rostered. The targets are there, right? But he's still hit or miss. Like you said, he got in last week. He hadn't gotten in for weeks before that.
Yep.
He's still the tight end in the league with the highest snap rate, 97% of any tight end in the National Football League. He's got a decent floor. We just have to hope he scores. So there's a guy for you. My number 2 option. Third guy I have is more of a long shot ish. Is Tucker Kraft.
He's been pretty good.
They're playing the Bucks this week. He's only 10% rostered. He's had 10 targets in the last 3 weeks. He's turned that into 116 yards and a touchdown. Tampa Bay is 23rd against the tight end in adjusted fantasy points allowed. There's a bunch of hurt guys there, right? Watson's hurt. Dontavian Wicks is now hurt. So why not Kraft? So he's the third guy there. And I do not have a bonus. It's that bad.
Those Green Bay rookie class there, Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft, Jaden Reed, all those guys look like quality long-term players.
You know, it's funny. I actually tweeted this out. It was either last week or the week before. I'm like, I guess the rookie historically suck for fantasy tight end narrative is dead after this season. There's so many guys in there that are putting up legit fantasy numbers this year that we have to retire the narrative.
And we're gonna get Brock Bowers next year, who we know is gonna.
Don't even Brock get Bowers me started.
So he's gonna be good.
Love me some Brock Bowers.
All right. Well, let's just go right into the second most important question.
Oh yeah.
And that is it a good week to stream kicker?
Unfortunately, not.
Oh no.
Yeah. This is a week, and unfortunately, it's the playoffs, and there's nothing we can do about that. But yeah, this week's weird, right? There are 13 teams in the NFL. With an implied team total under 20 points. So that's never good for kickers. So when you've got more than half the league designated to score under 20 points, not a great kicker week. So I still found some gems though. We've got some guys. I actually brought 5 names today. I have 2 bonuses in the kicker. I made up for the tight end bonus with a kicker bonus, an extra kicker bonus. First guy is Lucas Havrasik. Havrasik. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I've tried to. Some reason, I want to stick an extra L in there. I want to go Havrasik, and it's not. It's just Havrasik. Either way, him, the Rams kicker against Washington. This is the thing. They actually signed Mason Crosby this week because his job was on the line. He wasn't kicking very well. Crosby was inactive last week. And then, of course, Havrasik was perfect on the week. He went 3 for 3 on field goals, 2 for 3 on extra points. So I think he saved his job for the week. Mason Crosby is still on the roster at the moment. They're both 0% roster. So you can get either one of them depending on how the week goes. But I think Havrasik is going to still keep the job. The Rams are 6.5-point favorites, and they actually have the second highest implied team total of the week. So they have a 27.75 implied team total against the lowly Commanders. So he's far and away kind of the best option as far as when we're looking at the process and the numbers. The Rams are projected to score way higher than any of the other guys in the streaming list. So, and he is 0% rostered. So he's there for you in any league, really. The second guy on my list is Anders Carlson against the Bucks. He is 2% rostered. He was kicker 6 last night, I guess we could say. They are a field goal favorite over the Bucks at home, and their implied team total is 22.75. So he's decent if you need him. Third guy is Blake Grupe, who unfortunately let us down last week. He was dealing with a groin issue, so hopefully it's resolved. They're at home in the Dome in New Orleans against the Giants. He is 7% rostered. They are 4.5-point favorites with a 20.75 implied team total. So he's kind of the third option there. He's been hit or miss this season. And like I said, he's been dealing with a groin issue. So that's, hopefully better this week. 2 bonuses. First bonus is Nick Folk against Houston at home. He is 18% rostered. He's kicker 8 over the last 2 weeks, quietly, Nick Folk. And they are 2.5-point favorites with a 20-point implied team total. And then my second bonus, so I guess the 5th guy on my list here, is Chris Boswell. At Indianapolis. He is actually 37% rostered. So both of these teams are 7-6, and both of these teams are fighting for the playoffs. Right now, the Steelers are 2.5-point underdogs in this, and I don't usually love to put underdogs in here, but desperate times. He's in there. I would say the other side of the coin there, Matt Gay, but he got negative points last week, so we're just going to leave him off to the side because he's he's got the yips or something. Something's not working there, so we're not going to do Matt Gay. But I do think that matchup, both teams, like I said, are 7-6. Both teams are fighting for a playoff spot, so I think that should be a good game. So Boswell, if you need him, like I said, he's 37% rostered, so he's close up to the edge of streaming, but he is there. So there's 5 guys for you.
I like your bonus. I always like the bonuses. Always enjoy the bonuses. I was so mad. My prize picks, the Young Wei Koo missed 2. He missed 2 last week.
He doesn't miss usually.
He doesn't usually miss, right?
No.
I know they were long. They were long field goals, so can't kill him too much for that. AGZ wants to know Kyler, Flacco, or Nick Mullens. I would rank them the way you have them ranked. You could talk me into Nick Mullens over Flacco because I'm crazy, but because Mullens is the only one who has like a decent matchup. So that's the Kyler's got a really tough matchup against the 49ers. But I'd still go with Kyler just because you get the rushing upside. So he can have a really bad day passing, running a touchdown, and salvage the day for you. Flacco, like I said, plays against Chicago. Chicago's playing pretty good defensively. So I would go with Kyler, then Flacco, then Nick Mullens. That's kind of where I would go. Jen, any interest in Flacco over Kyler Murray, or would you still go Kyler?
I'd probably go Murray just for the legs. I mean, if you're comparing, but they both have not great matchups, and Flacco's not going to run. So
yeah. So although that would be fun to see,
that would be it would be fun.
Joe Flacco rumble down 70 yards for a touchdown or something along those lines. All right, before we get to the defensive streamers, I want to take a minute to talk about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. Go to prizepicks.com/accurate. Use code accurate for a first deposit match up to $100. For week 15, I'm hoping to get back on track because week 14 was not a good one for me. I'm eyeing Lamar Jackson to get more than 219.5 passing yards. The Jags allow the second most passing yards to opposing teams this year. Jackson has eclipsed that number in 3 of his last 4. And then I also like Drake London to get less than 52.5 receiving yards against a shockingly stingy Carolina defense. London blew up last week, but he was held catchless the last time he faced the Panthers, and Carolina held everyone in New Orleans to less than this amount last week. So that's what I like this week for Prize Picks. Don't forget to go to prizepicks.com/accurate. Use code accurate for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. So
you just reminded me. I forgot to look. I actually did one last week, and I just looked while you were talking because I was like, "Did I win?" No, I did not. I got 2 out of 4. Amon-Ra St. Brown let me down there. So.
Oh yeah, I was I actually was on a pretty good run there for the weeks leading up to last week. Last week, Young Wei Koo was one of them and missed 2 field goals. He only needed to make one of those, and it would have been okay. Jackson Smith and Jigby, I thought he'd do well, and I really wasn't counting on when I made that on Tuesday on Geno Smith missing. I really thought Geno Smith would end up playing. So that hurt me, I think, in that situation. So let's go back to streaming. Let's talk about defensive streamers. I think it's an okay week for defensive streamers. My top defensive streaming defense is Atlanta. They're rostered in 32% of Yahoo leagues. They're at Carolina, and like New Orleans was the defense special teams won last week against Panthers. Atlanta's the defense special teams 8th in average fantasy points over the last 4 weeks, so they're not bad. Bryce Young and the Panthers offense are struggling. They look terrible. I hope this season doesn't break Bryce Young because it's ugly. Carolina's 31st in AFPA to opposing defenses. They're 4th in sacks allowed. Nobody can get open on that offense. The coaching staff has been already disassembled. Start defenses against Carolina if you could do that. So Atlanta's my number 1. And then I kind of like Cincinnati against Minnesota. I talked about Nick Mullens as a gunslinger. The downside to that is turnovers seem really likely. So I also don't hate the flip side of that game. If you want to go with Minnesota against the Bengals, I don't mind that. Jake Browning's been playing pretty well, but it's still Jake Browning, and Minnesota's got a pretty good defense. So back to the Cincinnati side, though, Trey Hendrickson's been a wrecking ball. He's got 13.5 sacks this season, tied for 3rd in the league. And then Minnesota's 21st in points scored, and they just have 33 total points over the last 3 games. The Raiders held them in check last week, so I like Cincinnati. And then I kind of like the Giants defense at New Orleans. The Giants is the defense special teams number 1 in average fantasy points over the last 4 weeks. That includes the bye, so it's an average, but still really good. And Kayvon Thibodeau, pass rushing monster, has got 11.5 sacks this season, but that's 7.5 over the past 6 games. So Giants at New Orleans I really like as well. I'm going to stay away from that Chargers Vegas game, by the way. It could be really great. It could also be really slow. I don't know. I'm just going to stay away from that game. You can talk me into any of that, but I don't want anything to do with that
Yeah,
whatsoever.
I was looking when I was looking at kicker because Daniel Carlson is still like he's 40% rostered, and I was just like, I can't. I mean, like last week. Yeah, there's not a lot of points being scored by either team right now. I can't.
Yeah,
I would say the under is probably a pretty good bet though if you're out
yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, the under sounds pretty good. That's scary. All right. Let's answer a few questions, and we're not doing our stash segment because it's late in the year, so there's no point in doing a stash segment. So let's answer a few questions and close
Would
out.
you like me to read them and then you can answer to save your voice, or are you good?
I think I'm okay,
Okay.
but thank you, Mr. Scampers, for wishing me feeling better. I should be okay. This has been nice. It's been a nice reprieve for me to chat about football for a little while. Toby doesn't feel good about their RB2 and their flex between Jalen Warren, Devin Singletary, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jerick McKinnon, Josh Palmer, and Dallas Goedert in a half PPR. For me, it's Warren and Singletary. You could talk me into one of those Chiefs. I kind of like McKinnon better. You could talk me into Goddard. I think Singletary playing against Tennessee is really solid. He's been getting a full workload every week. I like that. And then Warren gives you that boom potential and
Yeah.
plays the Colts. So that's where I would go.
And I was gonna say I think Najee is still not
Oh, is he nicked up?
Yeah, I don't think he practiced today. So that's something to monitor.
That's something. Yeah.
If Warren has it to himself, that definitely helps because then he could probably actually get in the end zone
without a big run. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Will Hayes has Dallas and Jacksonville. Dropping Jacksonville, available on the waiver wire, Chicago and the Rams. Which one should I pick up? Rams against Washington is probably what I would do. Now Washington can put up points, so that can be a bad situation for you. But
the Bears have been good. The Bears have fantasy wise, like looking at the numbers, the Bears have actually put up some points.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that. It seems volatile to me too. I would go Rams, but I'm not opposed to if you want to go Chicago against Joe Flacco. So I think that's okay. Mustafa Garmavi says wants to start James Cook, Deontay Johnson, or Amari Cooper, so they have to sit one of those three. For me,
it would be nice to know the format, but that's okay.
Yeah. The Bears secondary has been really good, and Amari Cooper's a little nicked up, so I'd lean Deontay. But last second, I might switch to Amari if he's like really healthy, if he's feeling really healthy. So I don't know. That's but I definitely start Cook.
Yeah, I was just gonna say you skipped over Cook, and I wasn't sure if you were going with the two wide receivers. Yeah, I would start Cook and probably Deontay, but like you say, I could be talked into Amari if he's healthy.
Yeah. Mustafa also wants to know, would we start Tua against the Jets over Joe Flacco? That's tough. The Jets defense is really good. So
yeah, and Tua definitely did not look like himself last night. I don't know what, even with like regardless of Hill's status, Tua himself just wasn't his throws were not as
it was a weird game.
Mm-hmm.
It was because the offense was running well, and Tua, I really only saw the fumbles were bad, and he took some bad sacks, but I really only saw like two throws that I thought were bad throws. The offense ran well; they just didn't finish drives. It was really, really weird. I'd probably still start Tua, but that's if you want to go with Flacco. The thing is, Flacco doesn't have a good matchup either. Like, it'd be easier if Flacco was facing the Texans.
No, absolutely. I mean, you're looking at the number 1 defense again, for Tua, again, the number 5 for Flacco. So I feel like in those situations, you kind of have to just go with the better quarterback.
Yep. I think that's where I would go. Thanks so much for all the questions. I think that's it. Jen, do you have any final thoughts before we go? We'll do a short episode. And
we'll let Brandon get some tea in him and nurse himself. I don't really have much to say. I mean, hopefully you guys are in the playoffs and win. Mm-hmm. That would be fantastic. We'll be back here next week, regardless.
2 more weeks.
2 more weeks after. Wow, that's it.
That's it. Wait, the season just flies.
Wow, that's crazy. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. And as usual, if you guys have any questions, you can hit us up on the Twitter/X. We're around.
Absolutely. Jen, thank you so much. Listeners, Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. We'll be here for 2 more Tuesday evenings at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So come and join us on the 4for4 YouTube channel. Discuss streamers. That'll get you through your last 2 weeks of your fantasy season. You can follow us on Twitter at JennikidsNFL and at 2guysbrandon. Thanks for checking us out and have a good day.